Welcome for the family meetup in Berlin. I'm happy to kick it off. My name is Hugo. I'm going to be spearheading the family's operation in Berlin. And thank you very, very much for having taken the time to just come at Factory this evening for the first one. This is going to be an interesting evening. We have only one speaker, but a great one. We've been arriving in Berlin since 3 weeks now. We're French. We thought like, okay, it's Germany. There's not a lot of differences, not a lot. But we've been starting to meet people. Like we've met VCs, accelerators, incubators, startup people, like entrepreneurs, and we've started to see, like living in Berlin for 3 weeks, that there is actually a couple of differences that we're like really eager to understand, and that's what we're meeting all those people. For example, like with Alice, like a week ago, we went at a dinner, like cool people just say, hey, yeah, come by at 8, just eat with us, and it's like, okay, we arrive, we pick some cheese on the way because we actually want that to enjoy the meal, and then we arrive at, on time at 8:15, and then like I receive a mail like at 8:12. Are you coming or not? It's like, okay, German takes being on time really, really seriously, and that's the kind of thing you have to adapt, as being French. And as being like, super late on everything. And so we're discovering the people, we're discovering the new culture in a way, and we're trying to be like big sponges, like to get all the information, to absorb it, to try to digest it in a way. And in order to do that, we've done something that we think is quite cool or fun to do at least, is that we've met all those people and we've decided to take pictures and tell stories. Who know the Humans of New York? Okay, yeah, you guys know. So basically it takes pictures of people in the street and then like tell stories. We basically did like Humans of the tech people in Berlin, and then we have all of those profiles. We're like gathering 100 of them, and we're telling all the stories of what we feel, who they are, from who they come from, like why are they in the tech world, and what they do in Berlin. So you can check it out at like Welcome to the Family. On Instagram, I will send you the link on the meetup page after the meetup. So what are we gonna do here? We're gonna tell you a bit more about the family after, like with OUSSAMA. But we're gonna basically do 2 things. First, we're gonna do a lot of events. This event, we're gonna do more of this. We're gonna focus the events on basically like hands-on tips for founders and startup people to actually do things better. So we have done that in France, in Paris for a long time now, for 3 years. We've started as an educational platform actually, and we're gonna gather the good people from France on product, on growth, on fundraising, the good people about that in Germany, and some people from the US that we're actually gonna fly from there to the 3 locations that were present in Europe: Paris, London, and Berlin. And we hope that those people are going to get like the best feedbacks and the best talks actually on stage, and we're going to do that often. That's the first thing, the event. The second thing is the office hours. So office hour, one-on-one meeting for 1 hour with one of the partners of the family, and just to tackle the subject, like could be product, growth, fundraising, swag, identity, community. And this is how we're going to try to give to the community, give to the startups, and see how we can help the startups grow and take it from here. So that's going to be on thefamily.co/Berlin. You can book offices hour with the partners. You can see the next event, and then you can get to know us a little bit better every week. And what are we looking for here? 3 things, I would say, because we're actually looking for some things. First, we're looking for my German counterpart. So like a guy or girl that joined the family team to actually like help me on the operations here. Why German? It's because we think that we need like to have like the German flavor on the team. We don't want to be like just the Frenchies coming in and saying, oh, no. We actually want to have this mixity on the team. And if you know someone, or if you would be that someone, we're glad to hear from you guys. So like my email is hugo@thefamily.co, but you will get that as well on the meetup thing. And second thing we're looking for is the best admin startup people in town. So best lawyers, best accountant, all those people that we can, contact, so we can like build some first things first for us as the family coming in a new town. Second, for the family's startup that might want to come to Berlin, so they can have like less friction to do so, and then maybe like to really something for the whole ecosystem to simplify a lot of things. And third thing, for sure, we want startups. We want to meet startups. We want to start to work with them. And again, thefamily.co/Berlin. I'm gonna let you give a warm welcome to Oussama, the family's co-founder, and thank you very much again for coming.
Hi everyone, so my name is OUSSAMA AMMAR. I'm one of the 3 co-founders of the family. Actually, Alice is a co-founder too, she's here. So very happy to be in Berlin. Very happy to be with you. Just tell me when it's ready. So just to give you a little bit about myself, I have been an entrepreneur for 10 years. In 2010, I get fired from the company I created. A very sad moment in my life. And so I tried to put a lot of distance between the people that fired me and myself. So I look on the map, the most far place I can find, and I find Silicon Valley. So I flew to Silicon Valley in 2010. Because my name is Oussama, getting a visa to US was quite hard for obvious reason. And so the only thing I got was an investor visa. And that's how my problem in life started, is that as an entrepreneur, I always felt that investors are just a bunch of suckers. Like, that was my very basic feeling. And then, for administrative reason, I had to become an investor myself. That's have been a really hard time. So every time people in the Valley asking me what I'm doing, I was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm an angel investor. And actually, in the Valley, saying to anyone that you are an angel investor is like putting a little piece of meat in the middle of sharks. Like, the eyes change, and they get in pitch mode. And so my life was totally out of any normal relationship, because every people I meet, everyone, was always about pitching me. And actually, after a certain amount of time, I started to enjoy that, because I realized that being a bad investor was not something you are destined to. It's just that most investors are bad because they never have been an entrepreneur themselves, so they don't emotionally connect with the founders. And what you learn in Silicon Valley, and the thing that really amazed me, is that most investors there are incredible because they have been entrepreneurs before being an investor. So this kind of know-how and experience and knowledge change everything, because it changed the way people behave, it changed the level of institution, and it creates an ecosystem that is quite good. And in 2013, I came back in France. I was supposed to do a real visa, and I met Alice, and my life changed because we created the family. And for this first conference, I want to talk a little bit about the family and why we come in Berlin. So what is a family? The family is an investment firm. We have a ton of startups in our portfolio. We take in 3 years in France 510 startups. Only 289 are still alive, and we have 101 startups that we really love. So we are a family, we are supposed to love everyone, but the truth is that when you have that amount of children, you have to make some choice in the way you give food. Everybody cannot survive. So 101 stars, just to give you a certain kind of numbers, we created an incredible group of investors. We call them the Godfathers, because they make you offer you cannot refuse. We have, like, our company on the last year raised collectively 200 million euro. That's a quarter of the French market by ourselves. So we are quite big in terms of impact. And we have 25 SPV. So what is SPV? It means that we personally invest our money as a partnership and as a company in only 25 companies. So that's what is very unique in the family model, is that we don't provide value through the money. We are an investment firm that try to provide value through the education we provide, through the services we provide. And because it looks fake, and a lot of people that say that actually are just the people that don't really provide things and try to get equity, we did something quite unique in our management and relationship with startup. We told them that we will be the only investor with a vesting. So if you are unhappy of our service, education, and everything we provide, you can fire us. And there is a vesting working the same way that it works for entrepreneurs. Why entrepreneurs should have vesting? Because they don't pay their share. If as an investor we take advisory shares that we don't pay in the same condition than you as an entrepreneur, we should be set to the same kind of rules than the entrepreneurs. And only a very, very small fraction of entrepreneurs apply this vesting. So like someone told me this morning, maybe it means that we deliver somewhere. And that's what we want to keep on going on. So for us, the capital is less and less important. I think that's really the lesson around the family, is that our lesson is that in a world where you can find money everywhere, providing money to entrepreneurs doesn't make the difference. What makes the difference is which kind of infrastructure you can build, which kind of services you can build, which kind of unique things you can build in your process that makes your company having a very unfair treatment compared to the one outside that don't have the chance to be inside the family. So, we have a deep belief, and it's a belief that is not really well understood, and I want to deep dive in this belief to make you understand the family. Is that we think that Europe is toxic for startups. So when we say that, we shock a lot of people. Because people say, their first reaction is to say, that's not true, there is a lot of successful startups. We didn't say that toxicity means that no startups survive. Even in the most toxic environment on Earth, life still thrives. Like if you go in a volcano, there is still bacteria that survive, but there is only a few of them. So we think that the startup ecosystem in Europe is toxic in a sense that the number of startups that should survive is much bigger than the number of startups that actually survive. And the problem with toxicity is that it's an invisible phenomenon. It's not obvious, like if I tell you that last year 100 companies would have survived if they have been created in a less toxic environment. It will be like, yeah, sure, how do you know that? Like, how can you be sure of that? You know, it's a little bit like if someone tells you that every year a secret service will go against terrorists and 10 terrorist attacks don't happen. It's invisible. You cannot really know that is not happening. But you know when one is happening. And that's the problem with toxicity, is that because it's an invisible phenomena, people don't realize what happened inside the company. In our perspective, the toxicity is quite real because we have something quite unique, is that we see hundreds of startups every year in our deal flow, and we connect and try to provide values to hundreds of them. So we have hundreds of horror stories about things that went wrong, and they are not supposed to go wrong that way. And that's our mission at heart at the family, is that we are here to build an infrastructure to fight against this toxicity. So toxicity is everywhere, a little bit like love, thanks God. And toxicity is present in things that people don't realize. I will tell you a very simple example that struck me today. We met a lot of startups in Berlin today. And something that made me really think about the fact that we have value here is that average angel investor in Berlin is as toxic than average investor in London or Paris. Yeah, it's not different. And you know, one of the things about angel investors is that most angel investors in Europe forget the angel word before investor. So they don't really understand what is their positioning. So why angel investing can be toxic? Let me explain very simply. Angel investors exist because there is something inefficient in the market. They exist because entrepreneurs need money at the point where no one can give them money of their mind, but only out of their heart. Like the problem with most startups that begin is that they don't build something that is obvious enough so a professional investor can make his conviction and give money. That's why in most ecosystems, angel investors come at a very early stage, at a very risky stage, and give money to entrepreneurs. What is the problem with this phase? Is that because there is no certainty around that money, first, it's at very high risk. And also, it's at a point in life of the company where if you structure the thing the wrong way, everything can go wrong in the future, even if the intention of everyone around the table is right. So what happened with average European investors? They try to protect themselves way too much on the downside. Like if you look at the term sheet, we are looking at the term sheet of hundreds of companies around Europe every year. What we see every time? We see angel investor putting very small amount of money and taking rights that should be reserved to people putting huge amount of money. We see rights that are here to protect people against the downside in a way that no one should be protected against the downside at that stage. Why? Because in every good ecosystem, angel investors don't do it for the money first. The money is a cherry on the cake of angel investing. If you are trying to do angel investing as a class of asset to make you rich, you are not really an angel investor. And when you are doing that where your only interest is your personal interest and not the entrepreneur interest and not the company interest, if you don't have this philanthropic mind around angel investing, then you take decisions that make the life of the company very complicated. Because when professional investors arrived, they have an arbitrage between simple company and complex company. And that can seem very weird for an entrepreneur. Because an entrepreneur will say, yeah, but if my company is good, who cares about my angel investors? But the problem is that you are never alone when you are good. You are always good in a group of people that are as good as you. I mean, that's one of the realization you have as an entrepreneur that is always hard to take, is that you are not alone and the investor has hundreds of possibility and alternative of investment. And so if these possibilities are on the market, you never want to be the complicated company on the ground. I will tell you a story we lived recently. We have one company in our portfolio that have a very, very complicated French angel investor. The kind of angel investor that calls you every week, that thinks he's the CEO of the company, that tell everyone that the 20,000 euro he gave you is the most important thing that happened in your life. And then a Berlin investor met them, a prominent investor, and say, let's invest 2 million in this company. It's a great company. And the deal is not happening. Why? Because the angel investor did a call with the investor. Why he did the call? No one knows. But he felt obliged to do a call because he feels that he's a very important person in the life of the company. So when you tell him that he's not good and he should not be involved, what he replied to you? He replied to you that he's the first money in and that you should respect that. And in a sense, he's right. The problem is not the angel investor. The problem is the entrepreneurs that accepted the money from someone because he needed the money so much that he has no other alternative. And that should not happen. I mean, we are in a time where you can wait before taking money. You can do a lot of things with much less money than before. And this very traditional way of thinking that say, I have a startup, so I should fundraise, is not a thinking that anyone in any ecosystem should have. Everybody should be obsessed about, I'm building a great company, so if my company is great, then great investor will come and it will be in my own terms. If you take people because you need the money, then you will be on their rules, and then you will pay the consequence for something that did not really matter. And this thinking about toxicity, angel investor is a very small example of that. There is millions of small toxicity. At some point at the family, we realized that that was one of the most intense business opportunity of our time. If you think the way we think about what is happening, we are thinking that the economy is transitioning from an industrial age to an entrepreneurial age. And this transition goes with this very simple idea that entrepreneurship will happen everywhere and that anyone can be an entrepreneur. That's the two most important ideas that really drive the family as a philosophy. Entrepreneurship happening everywhere, meaning that there is no city on earth where a great company will not be built. There is no ecosystem, even the smallest one, where entrepreneurs will happen and entrepreneurs will change the way some function of the economy traditionally happen. And anyone can be an entrepreneur. That's the one that most people don't get, because when we say anyone can be an entrepreneur, everyone understands everyone can be an entrepreneur. But it's not to say that if anyone can be an entrepreneur, everyone will be an entrepreneur. It just means that the next entrepreneur will be always someone you don't expect, and you will always come from a place that can be surprising. There is not a right profile to be an entrepreneur. There is as many profiles of entrepreneurs that there is entrepreneurs. But anyone can be an entrepreneur means that you have to try with a very diverse group of people. You have to be welcoming to a very large group of people that don't look like the traditional entrepreneurs we are used to. You need to be open to new kind of entrepreneurship. And that's our mission, building the infrastructure that makes entrepreneurship happening in London, Paris, and Berlin, and make this infrastructure so efficient that anyone gets a chance at trying entrepreneurship. And I want to give you a very concrete example of what we are doing in terms of infrastructure, because I think it's one of the mystery of the family, because it's first quite unique, and also because we don't really understand it ourselves. So trying to explain it to people is one way to be like, oh yeah, that's true, actually we are doing that. So let's take an example. Service providers are expensive. If you are a startup and you start, because you're a startup, so you start. that's a bad joke. If you are a startup, getting incredible service provider at beginning is tough. Why? First reason is because you don't get any money to pay them. So that can be an obstacle. But even if you are lucky enough to get the money to pay them, most service providers will not really understand your needs as a startup, because they will want to treat you in the best case as a non-profit case. So, you know, we meet some lawyers that say, oh, we love to do startups and pro bonos. Yeah, in the morning I helped to fight for the nature, and there was the startup, like the guy looks so weak, we help him, it's in our pro bono budget. And so you never get help with someone that is like, oh my God, this guy is building an empire and want to be next to him. That's the kind of feeling you want from your service provider. You want someone that feel aligned with you. But to feel aligned with you, it's really hard when he has an arbitrage between helping Axel Springer or Rocket Internet and helping you. Like, let's say you are a lawyer for Rocket Internet. You don't really care about startup. Maybe you will do some startup because you want to show to Rocket Internet that you have deal flow for them. But otherwise, it will not really make sense. You will never make the kind of money with startup that you are making with your regular clients. In that sense, the Silicon Valley is unique. Because in Silicon Valley, every service provider is specialized in startups. Why? Because when you're an accountant in Palo Alto, who do you want to help if it's not startup? There is nothing else. So you are specialized in startup, understanding startup from 30 years, and as a service provider, you're incredible. And every incubator, every accelerator in the world get in that trap, is that when they start, they do strategic partnership with big names because they feel good, but actually these big names don't give a shit about the startup, because they are not incentivized to work for them with heart because they do it only for marketing reason. So when EY or KPMG or big law firms go and sponsor Accelerator and say, we will do office hours, we will receive you, help you, blah, blah, blah. Who are the people inside this company that do that? It's the interns that don't have any idea of what he's doing and that we put here because he was cool and he looks young and he looks like the people they should work with. What we did as a family is we say service providers are so important that we should put them at the center of our infrastructure, and we will do multiple things to help ensure that the quality of the service provider is high. The first thing is that we will negotiate service providing as a group, not as a single startup. When we talk with Amazon Web Service, when we talk to Google, when we talk to lawyer, we talk as a group of hundreds of startups, and soon as a group of thousands of startups. So then you represent something that economically makes sense. Because even if not all of them will be a success, at least if we are lucky enough, because that's our biggest point in strategy, be lucky. If we are lucky enough, there is some of them that will be big and they will be something that will provide business and stream and revenue and leverage so you can do something with the service provider. Then you will never assume that any service provider is good because of his brand, and you will educate them as you educate your entrepreneurs. We do events like that with service provider. For example, we spend hours with our lawyers explaining them what is a startup and how it works for real. And we take service provider and make them work for a week inside the startup. And we take service provider and we bring them in the countryside and make them party with our startups and got drunk with our startup. And we create this sense of community so they feel inside and not outside. And feeling inside means that they will give a better service to everyone. And so perk and discounts become something at scale that none of the startups should think about. You get inside the family, you get a set of vendors, you get a set of people you can buy service from. You see, instead of seeing that as something that we should give you for free, and it will be something of low quality, we will think about how can we make our best startup leverage the practice so our startup that don't have the means yet can get access to that on the right level. Another example, I was talking about it in introduction, is angel investors. So we think in France that a company that take money from bad angel investor take a kind of kiss of death and it's done. So one of our obsession is to keep the cap table as clean as possible and to get only people that bring incredible value, that are the kind of people that make sense in cap table. No one should invest in a startup of the family if it's not approved by the community. So how do we do that? First thing, we started one of the first ranking of investor from our startups. So a lot of startups from first generation at the family are unlucky because they took people that was not noted yet. So they don't know that they are bad, and we are discovering real time that they are bad. But each time someone acts bad inside our network is blacklisted for life. And so the next generation of startup have a better information about everyone. So, you know, crazy things was very regular at the family when we began. And I was thinking that it was a very French thing. And today, after meeting 10 startups, I realized that most of you in this room, for 100K, you are ready to accept things that don't make any sense. Just for fucking 100K. And that kind of money should not be something you feel obliged to take. If you look the seed stage at the family, like if you look at the 5 last seed deal we did, it's an average of 1.5 million at an average 6 million valuation. But that don't happen because our deals are overpriced. That happened because there is no deal that tried to raise inside our network without an incredible traction. It means that a lot of entrepreneurs joining the family never get to the stage where we introduce them to investors. Because we want to preserve the quality of this single investor platform, it means that we don't have demo days. Demo days are evil. Like, they put every company on the stage the same day and make people having trouble because they will not receive funding, not because they are not good, but just because they are a little bit less good than the company that is pitching just before them. And who receive money after demo days? The people that are good at pitching. Do you think that good pitch is a clue of a great entrepreneur? I don't think so. Like, most of the great entrepreneurs we have at the family, you will not put them on stage for 1 minute. First, because they are French. That doesn't help. But also because they are not good at pitching. They are good at building a business. They are good at building a product. Sometimes, some of them are good at that. And there is, in some industry, a natural relation between pitching and building a business. But there is other industry where there is not that kind of relation. So demo days don't make sense. The only things demo days create is a kind of sense of emergency between investors, but it's totally fake because everybody knows everyone and everyone talks about every deal together. So but you are thinking that you are leveraging power, but actually you are not. Having investors that are blacklisted from your community, that creates leverage. Because it means that every investor that negotiates with every single company of the family will always know that he's negotiating with every invisible company he did not meet yet. Because if he do something bad with one company, everybody will know it. And that's if you create this right sense of culture, the right sense of a strong family together, it can be very powerful. Like, we have an investor in France that never saw a deal at the family from 1.5 years. And they are sure that the family is bankrupt and that there is no deal anymore. Because we cannot even realize that as a group, we decided that they are not good enough for our startup, meaning that sometimes you prefer the idea of closing your startup than taking the wrong kind of money. And you have to have this kind of courage. Another one is that why there is so few competition from investor? It's because investor community are very insular. This morning I was talking with an incredible AI entrepreneur. One of the entrepreneurs, you know, you feel you want to back after 5 minutes with them. And the guy was telling me every investor he is working with and he met, and there was not a single investor that makes sense for him on a European size. Like, every investor that makes sense for him are in London, and he did not met any of them because he's in Berlin. So, from a rational perspective, what does it mean? It means that for a price of a plane ticket of maybe £100, his opportunity are smaller because he has no idea of where the other investors are. And there is good reason for that. Why the network of investors is so insular? For a simple reason, is that legal terms and legal due diligence and all of that are a nightmare if you are not from here. For example, if you take in Germany, you still have people that notarize documents. That seems like so weird for anyone outside. And even worse, when you invest in a company in Germany, you have a notary, someone that notarizes a document and speak them loud. Like, you know, it's like a very barbarian practice, you know, guys. Like, are we in 18th century or 21? So if you take an average American investor and you tell him, look, if you invest in a German company, you have to go in Germany, meet someone that will notarize the document and read aloud the document for 2 or 3 hours to you, it will be like, yeah, let's not do it, the investment. And it can seem like, as an entrepreneur, you will say, that's bullshit. I mean, if it's a good company, it will happen. And in a sense, that's true. If you are an exceptional company, they will wait and notarize document and sign a power of attorney and try to understand the weird things because you are exceptional. But if you are just very good, it will not work. Like, that's the difference between being exceptional and very good. The same thing with toxicity. So it means that a lot of companies that will be good enough to receive international money will not receive it because it doesn't make sense. And that's where the family magic happens. We standardize all the legal documentation between US, UK, and France, and soon Germany. Meaning that for a lot of our company in France that raise, even if they are in France, they have an holding in Delaware, and the investor has the feeling that he invested in Delaware company. I will tell you a funny story that happened recently. Sequoia did a deal at the family in the French company. So Sequoia is one of the top VC firms. And one of my friends told Sequoia partner, "It's so cool you are doing deals in France." And the guy was like, "Deal in France? Never." Say, no, really, like you invest in a company, my friend Oussama told me. It's like, "Oussama, who is that?" Say, no, seriously, you did it. And the guy, after being confused for 1 hour and a half, he realized that the company investing, that was a perfect standard Delaware C Corp, that he's so used to, has all his operation in France. And it was a big discovery for him. And he was like telling his partner, "Do you know that?" Like, the guy was like, "Yeah, of course I know that. I know that they're in France. But I saw on the paper that it was a Delaware company." And the guy replied, "You know, even French people know how to open a Delaware company these days." And that's what we are good at. We are good at making every barrier disappear, making all this invisible and boring stuff happening seamless. So you as an entrepreneur, you should not focus on that kind of bullshit. You should have someone that make it standard and tell you that's good enough, don't think about it, focus on your product and user. If you focus on your product and user, I will find a way to make everything works around you. If you don't do that, I cannot do anything. Let's take a last example. It's my favorite example, and then we can do a Q&A together. Every startup has a big problem when it comes to hire the best people, because there is a big gap between the supply of talent and the demand of talent. Every startup wants people that are startup ready the day they join the startup, that they have the right mentality, they are radical, they are good at execution, they are willing to work a lot. But on the same time, the supply market, the traditional job market, don't provide this kind of talent, because even if they provide this kind of talent, they are invisible because they are not selected. And so we have like this issue from a long time about talent management and how do we operate talent at scale. The pressure we received from a very long time was to hire someone in our team that will be the kind of talent manager for our portfolio. But that's a typical thing we will never do, because it doesn't scale, it doesn't make sense. If you hire someone that manages talent across a portfolio of 200 companies a year, you need a team of 10 people full-time doing that all day long. And at the end, they will do a service job. It will not change the ecosystem. And then one day we got the idea of building Lion. So what is Lion? Lion is the first school for free that works like an MBA for startup employees. So startup employees can go in that. There is 4 tracks, 1 track in sales, 1 track in growth, 1 track in development, devs, tech, and 1 track in operation. And after 8 weeks of brainwashing, they are ready to join. I love you, man. After 8 weeks of brainwashing, they are ready to join a startup. What do we provide during these 8 weeks? We do what no MBA on earth is able to do. We put entrepreneurs on stage giving class. And why entrepreneurs come and give class for free? Because they want to hire. So you create a perfect system of alignment of interest between the startup that send the best people to train the people that potentially can come and work to the startup, even if there is a small chance that they choose their own startup. Every session now is around 2,000 candidates. On the 2,000 candidates, we select the 200 best. And on the 200, 150 of them are hired consistently by our portfolio season after season. You see, that's typically an ecosystemic effect. Because not only our startup hire inside the portfolio, also startup from the outside. So the people you train not only change our portfolio, but they also change the other startup. And what is the secret effect in that? is that everyone inside this school keep friends that work in every startups. For the first time, you have 200 people that are getting hired by 20 or 30 startups every season. And this startup will train people and work with them and build relationship and build friendship and build things that will last for life. So they can go from a startup to another. They can exchange best practice. And so the kind of network that usually is reserved to founders now go also deep at employee stage, meaning that now executive assistant can do meetings all together, or CTO can join for lunch, or any functional operation feature, they can share tips between companies that are not competitors. That kind of efficiency in the infrastructure, inside the very invisible part and piece of the company, that's the mission of the family. That's why it's a mission that is so hard to explain and that is so unique, because you need the toxicity of the environment to make it something that it has value. If there was no problem to solve, there wouldn't be no family to build, and there will be no group that will have this kind of leverage against the whole ecosystem. So, our only goal in everything we do is to align ourselves with entrepreneurs. That's why we never lead round. That's why even when we invest money, we always invest them on the best terms that the company gets. So even when we try to increase our exposition inside the startup, even when we try to put more money inside the startup we believe in, we always do it in the best terms the company receives, and we try at every function to align ourselves with the startup. And we do something very important. The share we take inside our startups are always common shares. That's something very important as investor, meaning that every right you give to investors, it's a right you give against us, meaning we are aligned with you to protect your right inside your cap table and your terms, and to be sure that never you get screwed by someone that is short-termistic and try to get a profit of your lack of knowledge. So we are not a fundraiser, we don't take commission on the fundraising, but we align ourselves with you, because if your equity is valued nothing, we get equity, our equity is valued nothing also. And I mean, there is something that really shocked me about the Berlin ecosystem, is that no one in this ecosystem is independent. Like, we met a lot of incubator, accelerator, blah, blah, blah. They are all corporate backed, or corporate sponsored, or corporate finance, or public driven, or blah, blah, blah. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand how an entrepreneur at such an early stage can accept to be backed by people that have their interest in anything else than themselves. Like, the kind of thing you should be very sure about is that the first people that take equity from you, the first people that are aligned with you before investor, is people that are neutral and that are only aligned with your self-interest. It can seem cheesy, but it's very important, because this is how you build something very ambitious on the long term. You build it through radicality. And radicality don't happen when you have ties with government, when you have ties with big company. I can tell you two stories that are very simple example. We have a company in Paris called Hitch. So if you come in Paris, you can use Hitch. It's much better than Uber. The pitch is very easy. Hitch help drunk people to get out back safely. It's open from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. And Hitch is a company that every 3 months, the taxi in France try to get, considered as illegal by the government and shut down. Last July, there was like a very big crisis between the government and Hitch. And when I say a big crisis, like, the president was speaking about this company on TV, saying that they are doing something illegal and that they should be closed. That level of crisis. Every investor that received public money took Hitch out of a portfolio page instantly, saying, we didn't know. No, each is not with us. What did we do? We put each on our own page, because fuck government. And like, we have been the only one to go public saying that France was archaic at helping taxi in the fight against each. And why we can say that? Because we never took a dime from anyone. We are self-sustainable as an organization. We make money when our entrepreneurs make money. And because of that, we don't have the kind of troubles that regular organizations have. Another example is that Alice was running an organization before that supported a company that was building something that killed a bank, and the bank was a sponsor of the organization. What do you think it happens? The CEO of the banks called Alice and said, we are giving you XYZ in sponsoring money every year, and you are building a company that can kill us? It doesn't make sense. Shut down this company, please. And that kind of things cannot happen at the family, because no bank can call and say, we are giving you this kind of amount of sponsoring money every year. Please shut down this company. And even if that will happen, we will not even take the call, because we are independent at heart and we are aligned with the entrepreneurs. And I think only few organizations in Europe have this level of radicality in their support of the entrepreneurs. And that level of radicality is a strict minimum of support that every entrepreneur deserves, because it's so hard to be an entrepreneur. If you want to do something that matters, at some point you will do something that troubles people. And if you don't have strong players on your side that have their interest aligned with you, it doesn't matter. You will be killed for self-interest and small interest of short term, and not be helped on the big picture. So why are we in Berlin? Why did we come in Berlin? First, because we like to spend time in Berlin, so it's a very important point. Never do something if you don't like it. And also because if you look at Europe, right now, there is a silly competition between Paris, Berlin, and London. When you are in Paris and you talk with people, they tell you, yeah, Paris is the best ecosystem, we have the best company, we will be the next Silicon Valley. And when you are in Berlin, they tell you, we are the best ecosystem, we will be the next Silicon Valley. And when you are in London, they say to you, we are the best ecosystem, we are already the next Silicon Valley. English are a little bit better at marketing. The truth is that none of these three cities will ever be any valley of any kind. There is no way. I can tell you this little secret. The valley is unique, and the valley will never happen again. If you look historically, like this kind of phenomena, like Renaissance craftsmen, or Roman Empire, or Phoenician, like no one never replicates something that works somewhere else. Like it's a 5,000-year lesson. It will not be different this time. And it's such a silly competition of suckers to think that any of this ecosystem have any kind of importance on global scale. Like, do you really think anyone in China is like, oh my God, there is a threat from Berlin. We should be scary. Like, they are like, Berlin, where is Berlin? Like, it's like nobody cares. Like, nobody cares about this fight. What makes sense, and what I think can be an incredible move, is that Paris, London, and Berlin act as a single platform. Like, you know, the previous generation failed on political side with the European Union. Now we have Frexit, all of that, like everybody is going his way, and like European Union seems to be a joke on the political side. What we can do as a generation is that we can build an entrepreneurial platform where interest is aligned around those three cities. Imagine that the platform of this free city is quite unique, and you have a single investor platform. Meaning, why you should take a second-rank investor because he's local? Yesterday, I met an investor in Berlin that said, yeah, I don't invest in a company in Paris because if a company in Paris did not receive money in Paris, it means that it's a bad company, and if they come to me, it means that there is no local money for it. I was like, wow. Like that way of thinking means that first you have a very low self-esteem, meaning that you cannot imagine that you can be a better investor for this company than any investor in France. So you should work on yourself first. And second, it doesn't make sense to tell someone that he should be taking second-rank investor because it's somewhere. If you say that in every city you have the top 10% investor and everybody else, why a company should not be able to receive funding from the top 10% in every single city and make it stronger? Why a company should not be able to hire the best talent wherever the talent is between these three cities? Like, people take more time to commute between Palo Alto and San Francisco than taking Eurostar from Paris to London or plane from London to Berlin. Like, it's 2 hours plane. It's not like we are talking about some promising land that no one never heard about. We can act as a single platform, and we want to build the software, the infrastructure, the service provider that makes sense on that kind of scale. That's why we don't have a family in Berlin, family in Paris, and family in London. We have a single family, and we are all happy. So, we are European at heart, and I think that can be the first step at building something very ambitious. There is always this mantra in Europe that because we are in Europe, we can build things that are less ambitious than in the US. So let me tell you my view about that. Is that because we are in Europe, we cannot build anything less ambitious because we even need to be more ambitious than anyone because it costs a lot to not be. We cannot take less risk than anywhere else because we have no other chance to do than taking the maximum amount of risk. Because if we want to do things that matters from this provincial world of Europe, we have no other choice than making it big, making it right. That's our duty as entrepreneurs. And that comes from merging the effort between these three ecosystems. So that's what we are trying to build, a three-way bridge. You know, ménage à trois, it's a very French expression. That's coming from here. I see her smile, she prefers the slide. So, before the drink and the cat. Question. So, maybe we can interact together. I'm sure you have questions, and maybe we can, you know, try to make it more interactive. I don't know if in Berlin people ask questions or it's like in France. In France, we have to bribe people before the events. So we give them money and a question to ask. And so, like, we gave the feeling that question, thank you, you are my savior.
Hi, thank you for that. I want to ask you, is the Lion school also for entrepreneurs or only for people that want to work in a startup?
Lion is only for people that wants to work in startup. We don't give class for entrepreneurs inside Lions. For that, we have the family. We are giving class to entrepreneurs for free on our YouTube channel from 3 years. So what, like, to tell you about Lion, it came from this very simple feedback we got from a lot of entrepreneurs telling us that they have the feeling to be crazy because everything they say to their employees is counterintuitive, and that there was a gap more and more wide between what the entrepreneur think and what the employee do. And that's why we built Lion. It was to reduce that gap and get the employee on the same cultural stream and the same set of value, even if he doesn't feel as an entrepreneur. I think like this vision that everybody will become an entrepreneur is a very wrong vision. It doesn't make sense. If everybody become entrepreneur, our life will be miserable. We will be like really, entrepreneurs are good people and bad people in the same time. Every entrepreneur has a little, you know, a little problem in his mind. So if everyone become entrepreneurs, it doesn't make sense. So that's why having a unified culture that if you feel as a proud employee or as a proud entrepreneur is a perfect choice of life. And if you look there is more employee making more money in successful startup than there is founders making money in company that doesn't go anywhere. So it's not just a money question, it's a much deeper question.
Hi, Oussama. I was wondering, because you say you will have a single team of La Famille for the 3 cities. How are you going to manage that, and how are you going to make the family grow being in 3 cities at the same time?
So if you have any idea of how to do that, I take, I take any advice. I think it will suck for a long time. I'm sure of that. I think we will do a lot of mistakes for sure. We will create a lot of frustration around the way. And a lot of people will have a really bad experience of the family in the coming months. But at some point, we will start to see light at the end of the path, and we will start to realize how to do it. So I have no clue. For the moment, it's a nightmare. Like, Alice and I will live in a plane for the moment. We are really tired, and we pretend that there is only one city, but of course 95% of what is happening in the family is happening in Paris right now. So you have this huge disequilibrium. I don't know, it's like going to a party with a very rich guy, and the guy is like, oh, did you took your yacht to come, or how did you do that? You're like, no, I don't have a yacht. You don't have a yacht? So like that's a feeling you feel every time you try to organize something outside Paris. And the funny thing is that doing something outside France is so hard for French people in general, because you get so used to the French way that everything makes sense even if it doesn't make sense. And so when you go out and things work totally differently, you are like a little bit confused, because then you go back in France and you are even more pissed off at France. So even for our own psychology, I'm not sure it's good to be with so efficient people in London and Berlin. So on the long roll, all of that will be solved. And very basic intuition, we need more people from these 2 ecosystems working in place. So we will bring French people in Berlin and bring Berlin people in France. That's a very simple way to reduce gap. Second intuition, we need to be really, really good at software. We are hiring 10 developers, so software can make a lot of things more smooth. You know, it's if you have the right software in place with the right design, things that are complicated in back end can become simple on front end. That can be magical. I mean, that's what people tell me. Each time we talk with our software developer, everything becomes complicated everywhere. But there is a world where that can happen, and at some point we will get there. And the last intuition is that if you have successful case, everything will follow. So the obsession for the moment is to get some prominent, big, successful case. It's not about, like, it would be silly to think that we will change London and Berlin in the next 6 months. It doesn't make sense. Like, and by the way, we never try to do that in France. A lot of people think that we try to change France. Like, thanks God, we never try to change France. Like, that will be an impossible mission. What we did was, what can we do for the best 10 startups we love? And then what can we do for the 20 best startups we love? What can we do for the 100 startups we love? And then something changed in France along the way. But that was not the goal. The goal was our startup. It would be the same thing in Berlin. In Berlin, we will have people that are members of the family, and our only obsession will be, what can we do to make them more successful, more happy, more incredible, more better? And if we do that with enough care and enough art, at some point, the infrastructure will follow.
Hi. I wanted to come back on the toxicity part.
Sure.
And like maybe a legal kind of toxicity. And Germany is like the country where Facebook, Google, Uber, they get sued regularly and they lose some.
Yeah, big time.
And how do you, you as the family and or you as an entrepreneur would approach this kind of toxicity?
It's a very good question. It's one of the biggest questions we ask ourselves. And I think somehow we will start a war around this. So I think European countries' stance around this question are very different. So France is a very strange country in the sense that you can do something illegal in France for a very long time without trouble, until a point where we are way too big to get banished and so you become legal. So that strategy makes sense in France. You just need to have courage enough. So you just need to have courage enough to survive that. Germany, if you look at the case of Uber, Google, Airbnb, all of these companies, the law is the order and the order is the law. So at some point, if they say something is illegal right away. But there is something that this company are missing, this US company, is that in Germany, maybe you can build things from the ground that are smart around the regulation and still deliver the same kind of services. Like, I mean, like the level of lobbying of all these companies in Germany is so low because they are not local. They manage that from the US with a very distant perspective. They don't really respect the fact that it's happening differently. But I think there is a case of starting a war inside Germany around these kind of things to make this kind of service successful, respecting the German constraint. And that's the intuition somewhere about what we call at the family regulatory hacking. We think that there is a huge branch of value to create around regulatory hacking. I can give you this example that we'll love. Convertible notes don't exist in France. They don't. It's illegal. You cannot do a convertible note in France. It's jail if you do one. That level of illegal. There is a group that was lobbying from years to get the convertible note legal. And so why convertible note is illegal? Convertible note is a debt instrument that you say to someone, I lend you some money, and one day when you have an external valuation set by an investor, I convert this money into shares. But the first step is that I should give you debt. The funny thing around that is that the important part is the future valuation setting price. It's not the debt. But why everybody is obsessed about debt? Because in US, convertible note is a debt instrument. So what everybody in this French lobby they did was to try to convince banks to knife a little bit their regulatory monopoly around debt. Because in France, the only players that are allowed to give and provide debt is banks. So let's put yourself in the shoes of a bank. Someone come and say, look, I have this great idea, it's a great instrument for startup. You just need a little bit tweak around the regulation. And you're a bank, so what you are? Paranoid. You say, yeah, it starts like that, and then what happened? It will be a nightmare. Everybody will have right to give debt, and there will be end of time, and I will not have my bonus. There is a concrete relationship in banks between end of time and no bonus. So what we did at the family is that we sit and we say, oh, that's funny, it's stupid. Why everyone is doing debt? Let's use a very old instrument that is used with ships in the 19th century. Because in the 19th century, when you finance an expedition, you don't know what will come back on your ship. So you have a variable pricing. You say, I give you money now, and you tell me in 3 months when you come back how much you get back, and we define price at that time. That instrument, the banks don't care about it. First, they don't have ship, and it's old. And so we use it, we adapt it in a contract, and we create a standard template called air, because it's a fresh air for your startup. And then we invented convertible note in 2 weeks. 10 years of lobbying, 2 weeks of hacking. Mic drop. Like it's like so insane how people can get stuck on small problems and forget the big picture. Doesn't make sense. But we are good at big picture. And I think same thing in Germany. Like the kind of trouble that this company face is maybe because at some point they are not radical enough in their lobbying. Maybe it's because they are not radical enough in the way they bring users to fight against the law. Maybe it's because they are not radical enough in their way of making people understand that the law can change, that you can lobby at scale against the law. And I think that's a big opportunity for us to build that hacking regulatory culture.
Maximilian, my question is, what is the family? Is it a company? Is it a group of investors? What's your business model? So how do you make money?
So that's a very interesting question. So we are a company. We are not a fund. We don't manage money from other people. We have private investors, but they buy shares in a commercial company. So that's as a legal structure. We are limited in UK, the top co. And the way we make money is a very simple way, is that we build services that people outside our portfolio buy. So let's take the incorporation. Incorporating a company in France was hard, very hard. If you are the family, we build a software called Made in Law that incorporates your company in 10 minutes online for maybe a third of the price that a lawyer will ask. If you are a startup of the family, you will pay only the legal fee. If you're a startup that is not inside our portfolio, but still you want this incorporation tool, you will pay half of the price that a lawyer asks. And that margin will be used back inside our portfolio. And using this strategy, service after service, we build a 500K a month revenue company, and we will be soon a 2 million a month revenue company. Because every time we solve problem for our portfolio, it becomes a business opportunity we can sell to companies that are not inside our portfolio. And what is great about that, we think, is that it totally changed the ecosystem very deeply, not only inside our investment thesis, but also in good companies that don't fit with the family, and they just buy with cash the services that our company get access for free. And the long-term business model is that every company that joins the family gives 5% equity, and this 5% equity has some value on the long term. And so step after step, service after service, we are building stack of regular revenue that are aligned with the kind of service we can offer to people.
Yeah, I have a question about corporate accelerators. How would you define how aligned you are with the corporate
accelerators are evil and they should not exist. Is it a good answer?
Well, not, because I'm actually thinking about going into one.
Yeah, I know it's a bad idea. It's the worst idea you can have. Like it's like asking right-wing people to do rap. It sounds fake. Yeah. Like you cannot. Like what on earth if you can be a pirate, you want to join the Navy? If you are this kind of person, join the Navy and get killed by my pirates. Yeah. It's fine. But really, like, I don't get why so many corporates want to build accelerator. It's like so bullshit. It doesn't make sense in their balance sheet because it's always small. Like no startup can have impact on the balance sheet of big companies. And there is these very silly things, idea from startup that big companies are bad at their job. Like that's something I hear all the time from startup world. Like, yeah, this big company don't understand. Like, yeah, they don't understand, but they do billions. Maybe there is something you don't understand. But the point is that you should not put yourself in bed with someone that is so much bigger than you. Like the alignment of interest is impossible. Because even if you are great, then they are in your cap table and they make your life crazy for a reason you don't understand. Like there is a company where I was involved as a board member. They have Telefonica as an accelerator. Like they got an offer from a competitor. So Telefonica has 6%, never gave money to them, just support and mentoring. They received an offer from a competitor of Telefonica. Telefonica did everything they can on earth to make the deal not happening. Why? Because they don't care about the 6%. Like the theory will be, oh yeah, but they make money like me, so we are aligned. No, because the amount of money they will make with the sale, even with a 100 million sale, what is 6 million for Telefonica? So it's like the CEO breakfast. It's like they will be like, what, you are telling me a competitor is buying this company? Why? Why I'm not aware of that? And then it becomes a political problem. And this political problem, you as a startup has to manage it, and you become a free employee of Telefonica. Like that's a great position to be in. An employee without salary and without benefits. So and on the other side, I don't understand why entrepreneurs are so willing to go in this place to feel better. Because that's the point. Like, I know that because I have been an entrepreneur myself. Why entrepreneurs love co-working space? Good example. Co-working space is the worst place where you can work from. Because you are with people that make noise, you don't have focus. Like, if someone is bad, you become bad. Like surround yourself with average people, you become average. So why do you go to co-working space? Because you want to have something to tell your family about. Like, no, I'm not insane. I'm an entrepreneur, and I go in this place to work, and it's very serious, mom. You know, I had that discussion with my mom. Like, when you start, you feel so weird, and it's so weird to tell yourself, you are nothing, and you say, I will build something great. And everybody is around is like, yeah, sure, yeah. And where do you work from? From your couch in the living room? Oh, cool. And you are in pyjama for 3 days? Yeah, sure. An empire, I see it. And the problem is that because of that, because that feeling that you need to tell people that you are sane, it looks great to have corporate validation. Because you can tell people, very serious people, I can tell you they were sweet. So they said that my startup is great. And you know how I know that my startup is great? Because to apply, I had to do a folders where I fill box, and I have to explain myself quite clearly against a lot of people that do the same, and they pick me. It feels so good. Actually, I'm great. And then, what? It's like every startup competition. Why any entrepreneur will go in a startup competition in his life? Do you think Google ever went to a startup competition? Do you think Uber was on stage pitching, like, yeah, I want to build a limousine? No, he was fucking working on his phone and trying to get clients, not doing the clown at an event. Because why? He was not trying to get a justification that is good for his family. So think about why you want to go in this corporate accelerator, and think deeply about that. And you will see that most of them don't provide value on the end, because they cannot be radical. And I think this radicality really matters at scale, because it's your only chance to build something that matters. Be radical. There is nothing you can learn from ourselves than that. Yeah.
What do you think about French people coming in Berlin to fund their own startup?
If they like Berlin, why not? I mean, it's a good place to do it. It's cheaper than in Paris in a lot of ways. It's an incredible environment. What I love is that it's much more diverse than France. Not being French, I can tell you, France can be hard sometimes. You know, like you are only surrounded by French people all day long. so like this international mixity that you feel in Berlin is great. I mean, at the end of the day, the best location for your startup is a place where you feel the best. Like, business-wise location is bullshit. Because if you say, oh, the best place to build my startup is San Francisco, and you hate Americans, you will never build a great company. You know, you will be like, yeah, it's the best, I have to be here, but why they have such a lack of culture, and why they are so gross, and you know, and it doesn't work. So the first step in your life is put yourself somewhere you are good, and where even if your startup is a failure, you are happy to be here, because certainly your startup will be a failure, at least the first one, and it's a long-term thing. So maybe the second one or the third one will be the good one, but to that you need to feel well in the ecosystem. So French people in Berlin, until they are unallowed, should come if they feel they should come. Like, after the family, we didn't understand what happened. The Germany politics changed. No, so yeah, focus on how you feel good, and then everything else follow. Thank you very much.
Que la famille.